Hello, I'm Aila Tasse, and I'm honored to introduce this season of the Movement series. You're about to hear the story behind Cabbages in the Desert, a book that shares how God has moved in some of the most spiritually dry and difficult places on earth. These stories aren't just mine. They belong to a growing family of disciple makers who have said yes to Jesus in the face of real challenge and deep need. As you listen to each chapter being discussed, I hope you'll see that movements don't start with experts. They start with obedience. My prayer is that these episodes inspire you to believe that God can do something extraordinary right where you are.
Welcome to the Movement series. This is where we take source material like books or articles and really dive deep to pull out the key insights for you.
And today we're looking at some fascinating parts of the book, Cabbages in the Desert. It's by Dr. Aila Tasse, that's pronounced Aila Tasse.
Right, Aila Tasse. And we're zeroing in, really focusing just on chapter 1 for this deep dive.
Yeah, because this chapter is so foundational, it really lays out Dr. Aila's personal story, the experiences that just completely reshaped how he thought about ministry.
It definitely sets the scene. So our goal here is to kind of trace that journey, look at his background, a really serious personal crisis he went through, this unexpected vision he had.
And then how, a pretty surprising event showed him a whole new way to think about fruitfulness, especially in tough places.
It's all about seeing how a shift in thinking, that paradigm shift the book talks about, can lead to seeing, cabbages in the desert.
Exactly. Seeing spiritual life bloom where you'd least expect it. It's a powerful idea. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. According to this chapter, who is Dr. Aila Tasse?
Well, the book tells us he's an African follower of Jesus, originally from a Muslim background. But what's really interesting, I think, is that he wasn't new to ministry when all this happened.
Oh, really?
No, he'd actually been involved for decades. And, by many people's standards, he'd seen quite a bit of success using sort of the traditional methods.
But the book says he felt trapped by those methods. That's kind of arresting, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were those traditional approaches like, the ones he felt stuck in?
Yeah, it says they typically focused on, big meetings, big gatherings. The main goal was often getting people to make a sort of one-time decision.
Right, like raising a hand or coming forward.
Exactly. And the message shared was often quite basic, maybe just the entry-level gospel points. And crucially, there often wasn't much meaningful follow-up afterwards. Plus, there was that physical distance in large events.
So he might have had numbers, maybe, but not the kind of deep, lasting change he was looking for.
That seems to be it. He felt confined, like the methods weren't producing disciples who could then make other disciples. He needed, as the book puts it, a transformative paradigm shift.
And this shift connects back to Jesus' core message, doesn't it? The source highlights that Jesus was talking about the kingdom, about making disciples, not really about starting a new religion as such.
Absolutely, that's key. The early believers, they were called disciples or followers of the way. It wasn't just about a label, it was about a life commitment,
A way of life, yeah.
But for Ayla, getting to that understanding wasn't just theoretical. It came through a really intense personal experience, starting right in his own community.
Which the book describes as pretty resistant to outside influences, especially non-Muslim ones.
Very much so. And into this context steps a really important figure. Teacher Francis.
Ah, yes, Teacher Francis. Tell us about him.
He's described really positively. Friendly, polite, patient. Apparently his character just earned him a lot of respect, even though his faith was different. He taught biology and agriculture, which Ayla studied.
So not primarily a religious figure in his role, but someone whose life had an impact. And this connection becomes crucial during a health crisis, right?
Yeah, a big one. The book talks about a severe outbreak, malaria and yellow fever hitting the area hard. Ayla got really sick, and medical help was scarce. The nearest doctor, days away.
A dire situation.
He ended up hospitalized, suffering badly. And while he's there, in that really low state, Teacher Francis comes to visit him.
Just a visit.
A visit, and during it, Teacher Francis prayed for him. Simple act, but profound consequences.
Because this is where things get really intense and, frankly, a bit strange. After that prayer, Ayla starts experiencing this awful internal torment.
Yeah, severe torment. He begins hearing a voice, persistently in his sleep apparently, a male voice just saying, "Your sins can be forgiven," over and over.
Wow. Not exactly comforting, the way it came across initially.
No, it felt like an attack, a disturbance. His first thought, quite logically, was, okay, this is the malaria messing with my head. It's a hallucination.
Makes sense.
But it didn't stop. It just kept going day after day, night after night, this persistent voice.
And trapped there, sick, hearing this constantly, he reaches a really difficult conclusion.
He does. Because the torment started right after Teacher Francis prayed, he became convinced that his teacher had somehow sent a Christian spirit specifically to torture him.
Oh, wow. Not an invitation to forgiveness, but an assault.
Exactly. That's how he perceived it. So imagine the fear on top of the physical illness. He felt like he was wasting away, and now this relentless spiritual or psychological pressure.
He must have been desperate.
Utterly. He became fixated on getting Teacher Francis to come back, believing only Francis could call off the spirit. His condition worsened, and the fear of dying in that tormented state just took over.
Sounds like absolute rock bottom. Physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's right there, in that pit of despair, that the breakthrough happens.
Yes. According to the book, he has a vision, a really powerful one.
What did he see?
He saw the Lord, but depicted as the potter, and he saw himself as the clay. And in this vision, he hears the Lord say very clearly, I will make you.
I will make you. Combined with that persistent message, your sins can be forgiven. That must have hit differently in that moment.
Completely. It brought this overwhelming sense of hope, surrender. The book describes this as his moment of accepting Christ. He suddenly understood this wasn't about joining that other religion his community disliked.
Right.
It was personal. It was the forgiveness he desperately needed, the assurance, and this promise of being remade, reshaped by God himself.
It cut through all the cultural baggage and negative stereotypes he'd known. A direct encounter.
Exactly. It met his deepest needs. But then came the immediate reality check of his situation.
Yeah, that personal transformation runs straight into the wall of his community context. The book really stresses the fear he felt right after converting.
Huge fear. He was terrified of what would happen if people found out, especially the Muslim Youth League, which was apparently quite active, and his own family.
And it wasn't just paranoia, was it? The source explains why Christians were viewed so negatively there.
Right. There were these stereotypes. Christians eat pork, drink beer, they destroy the local culture. It's a white man's religion, something foreign.
Impure and destructive, basically.
Yeah, and sadly, the book mentions seeing poor examples from some people called Christians, like security officers in the border town of Moyal, which just seemed to confirm those negative views.
So this amazing personal experience had to immediately go underground. His first steps of obedience were secret.
Totally secret. The book says he started praying daily in Jesus' name, but hidden. And he began reading a Bible he kept hidden. Specifically, it mentions Psalms, Proverbs, and the Gospel of John.
Interesting choices. Psalms for the heart, Proverbs for wisdom, John for understanding Jesus.
Seems like it. Nourishing his new faith in secret. But even doing that, the source is clear. He just couldn't work himself to tell anyone yet. The fear was still too strong.
And it's likely in this period, praying secretly, wrestling with this fear, that he receives the vision that gives the book its title, right? The Cabbages in the Desert vision.
Exactly. While he was praying, he gets this incredibly vivid vision. He sees the Dida Galgalu Desert, which is part of the Chalbi Desert in northern Kenya.
And the book paints a picture of that place.
Oh, yeah. Vast, empty, totally barren. A place where basically nothing grows, maybe just one famously tough little tree that somehow survives. Just desolation.
The definition of barrenness. And in this vision of emptiness, he hears a question.
Yes. Can cabbage grow in this desert?
His immediate thought must have been,
No way, How could cabbage possibly grow here? Nothing grows here. It's the only logical response.
but the vision wasn't over.
No, it shifted. The question turned into a statement. He hears, cabbage can grow in this desert. And then, boom, the image changes. He suddenly sees rows and rows of healthy green cabbages thriving right there in that barren wasteland.
Wow, what a powerful counterintuitive image. Cabbages in the Chalbi Desert.
It really is. And the book explains the symbolism. This was an uncommon vision representing greater fruitfulness among least reached peoples. It was about God bringing life and growth in the most unlikely, seemingly impossible places.
That must have radically challenged his ideas about where ministry could happen, especially feeling stuck and seeing so much resistance.
Absolutely. It planted a seed of possibility for the impossible. And moving from that vision, the book shows us some of his first very tentative steps into ministry, even before any formal training.
Like the tracks?
Yeah, remember, he was still operating in secret. He started leaving these little tracts with short salvation messages in shops around Malsabit town.
That sounds risky.
It was. He describes almost getting caught once, a really awkward moment, and the tracts had no name or contact info, so people found them and just wondered who left them, the impact. Unknown at the time. It was like scattering seeds blindfolded almost.
An act of obedience maybe, but still feeling his way in the dark. But then comes a really key story, a turning point. The food distribution in Lontolio village.
Yes, this seems pivotal. The background is a severe drought. People are desperate. A food distribution is planned near a place the community held sacred, a hill they called the House of God.
So a practical response to need happening in a spiritually significant location.
Right. And Ayla's there. Seeing the crowd, he decides to try preaching the gospel using a kind of approach he was familiar with from his past ministry.
How did that go?
It fell flat. Totally flat. The book says people just look confused, looking back and forth between him and his friend, like, what is he talking about? The message just didn't connect. They had no framework for it.
Ouch. That must have felt like confirmation of the barrenness again.
You'd think so. But the breakthrough didn't come from Ayla trying a different technique. It came from someone totally unexpected. An elder from within that community stood up, and he made the connection. He spoke to the people, linking the God who had miraculously provided this food they desperately needed to the God who gave his son as a sacrifice. He used concepts they understood: provision, sacrifice.
Incredible. Using their own cultural logic and the immediate context of the food. What happened when the elder spoke?
It was immediate. The book says most of the people there raised their hands, showing they wanted to follow this God, follow Christ. Ayla then stayed with them, telling them Bible stories, nurturing this unexpected new beginning.
That's such a powerful illustration. Not the planned sermon, but God using the crisis, the practical help, and crucially, an insider, the elder, to bridge the gap. What did Ayla learn from that?
I think this was the cabbages in the desert vision becoming real right in front of him. It showed him fruitfulness wasn't about his performance or the right traditional method. It was about God working through compassion, through context, through local people.
A massive shift from trying to make something happen to seeing where God was already working.
Exactly. And it set him firmly on a path towards making actual obedient disciples who could then reproduce their faith, moving way beyond just aiming for that initial decision or show of hands.
That practical demonstration seems key. And it leads into the period the book calls the Marsabit Revival, from about 1991 to 1997.
Yes, the seeds planted, like in Lontolio, started growing. Groups began meeting regularly, and get this, some people were walking incredibly long distances just to be part of these gatherings.
Wow. In the book notes, they didn't initially set out to plant formal churches in the way we might think of them.
No, it was more organic, just groups of disciples meeting, learning, sharing. And what's really striking is that this revival kept going, kept growing, even after Ayla himself left for Bible school in 93.
That shows it wasn't dependent on him alone, right? It had become self-sustaining.
Precisely. It points to that reproducible nature taking root.
Yeah.
And the long-term impact mentioned is huge. People who came out of this specific movement are the ones who later planted most of the churches across northern Kenya and into Ethiopia.
A direct lineage back to that vision and those early unexpected breakthroughs.
It really highlights the power of focusing on disciple making over just institution building. Though the book does mention this period wasn't easy. There was persecution involved.
Which often happens with these kinds of movements.
Yeah. But a settlement reached in 1997 apparently allowed a renewed focus, specifically on reaching those unreached groups, the very deserts Ayla had seen in his vision.
And the result, as the chapter wraps up?
It led to 6 rapidly growing branches, basically new church communities flourishing predominantly among people from that majority non-Christian background, literally cabbages growing robustly in the desert.
That's an amazing arc described in just one chapter. From personal crisis and feeling trapped to this wild vision to seeing real, tangible freight in the hardest places.
It really is a powerful testament to shifting perspective and following God into unexpected places.
So reflecting on this whole first chapter, Dr. Ayla's journey, what really jumps out at you? Is there a moment or a principle that feels particularly significant?
And for you listening, as you think about maybe resistant situations or challenges in your own world, how does this whole idea of cabbages in the desert, of God bringing life unexpectedly, how does that resonate? Where might you need a fresh perspective to see potential?
We've really only scratched the surface here of Chapter 1 of Cabbages in the Desert. But we've traced Dr. Aila Tasse's incredible journey from feeling boxed in by old methods to embracing this new vision that came out of struggle and surprise.
And that central image, cabbages in the desert, it's more than just a nice phrase, isn't it? It's this potent reminder that God can and does bring life and growth and reproduction into places that look utterly barren, often in ways we wouldn't have planned or predicted.
This deep dive into Ayla's story really sets the stage for understanding the principles behind disciple-making movements, which is what the movement series is all about.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with as we wrap up this deep dive. Where are the deserts in your life, your community, your work that maybe you've written off? And what unexpected ways might God be inviting you to start looking for cabbages there?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you for joining us for this journey through Cabbages in the Desert. It means so much to me that you've taken time to listen, to reflect, and to lean into what God is doing through disciple-making movements. If these stories have stirred your heart, I want to encourage you, this isn't just a story from far away. This is an invitation. The same God who moved in the desert can move in your city, your community, your network. To get connected and take your next step, visit www.newgenerations.network. You don't need a title or a platform, just a willing heart.